The morning lobby of AI and automation engines buzzed with the controlled chaos of corporate ambition. Victoria Blackwell, 29 years old and the youngest CEO in the company's history, strode through the glass doors in her powder-pink suit, phone pressed to her ear, discussing critical matters with Tokyo investors. "Yes, Mr. Tanaka, I understand your concerns about the timeline," she said, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who'd earned every achievement through 16-hour days and a mind that saw patterns others missed. "We'll have the optimization algorithm functioning by quarter's end. You have my word." She ended the call, exhaling slowly. The promise she'd just made felt increasingly hollow. 3 months of development, $40 million in funding, teams of Silicon Valley's brightest minds. And still, the recursive loop at the heart of their AI-driven automation system created inefficiencies no one could solve. The algorithm was supposed to revolutionize manufacturing efficiency. Instead, it threatened to bankrupt her company. Victoria was crossing toward the elevators when movement in the corner caught her eye. A small girl sat quietly on one of the lobby's leather benches, surrounded by colored markers and white paper, drawing with intense concentration. Normally, Victoria wouldn't have noticed. Children were invisible to her, complications that other people dealt with, obstacles to the kind of singular focus her career demanded. But something about the patterns on the girl's paper made her stop mid-stride. Those symbols, that recursive pattern. Her blood ran cold. Victoria changed direction, heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. She ended her next incoming call without answering, her full attention locked on the paper in front of this child. The drawing was done in purple and green marker, childish in execution, but unmistakable in content. Mathematical notation, Greek symbols, a recursive loop structure that looked exactly like the proprietary algorithm that was currently threatening to destroy her company. Victoria crouched beside the bench, her designer suit creasing, her heart hammering. "Sweetheart," she said, trying to keep her voice calm, "who taught you this formula?" The 7-year-old looked up with intelligent brown eyes, surprised by the attention. She had delicate features, dark hair pulled into a slightly messy ponytail, and marker stains on her fingers. "My daddy," she said softly, then pointed across the lobby toward the hallway. "He's cleaning over there." Victoria's gaze followed the small finger. Daniel Morrison pushed his mop bucket down the gleaming corridor, just another invisible presence in the corporate machine. 42 years old, wearing the standard gray maintenance uniform, methodically working his way across the floor with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this exact task hundreds of times. To everyone rushing past him, executives, programmers, analysts, he was functionally invisible, just the janitor. Part of the building's infrastructure, noticed only when something wasn't cleaned properly. But 5 years ago, Daniel Morrison had been someone very different. 5 years ago, his name had appeared in aerospace engineering journals. His innovations in jet engine optimization had earned recognition across the industry. He'd been the youngest senior engineer at Northrop Grumman, with 2 patents pending and recruiters calling weekly. That life had ended the night a drunk driver ran a red light and hit Sarah's car. 3 days in the ICU, holding his wife's hand, making promises about their daughter. Then, nothing but silence and a 2-year-old who kept asking when mommy would come home. The prestigious aerospace career with its 18-hour days and constant travel couldn't raise a child alone. The late nights solving complex propulsion problems couldn't tuck Lily into bed or help her through nightmares. The international conferences couldn't attend parent-teacher meetings or make sure she had clean clothes and regular meals. So Daniel had walked away from 6-figure salaries and corner offices. He'd traded blueprints for bleach, differential equations for evening shifts mopping floors. When he'd applied at AI and automation engines, the HR manager had barely looked up from her screen. Just another maintenance worker to keep the floors clean, while brilliant minds worked upstairs on problems that actually mattered. No one had asked about his education. No one had cared about his previous career. They'd run a basic background check, confirmed he could pass a drug test, and handed him a uniform and a mop. For 5 years, Daniel had been invisible, and that invisibility had been exactly what he needed: a job with predictable hours, health insurance for Lily, and the mental space to focus on being a father rather than an engineer. His daughter had inherited more than Sarah's delicate features. She'd also gotten Daniel's analytical mind, his ability to see patterns where others saw chaos. At 7 years old, Lily understood concepts that confused children twice her age. Not because Daniel pushed her. He'd never wanted to be that kind of parent, the one who forced their own ambitions onto their children. But his world inevitably leaked into hers through bedtime stories about aerodynamics, weekend projects, building model planes, quiet explanations of why wings curved the way they did, and how air moved around objects. She absorbed everything, processing information with a natural facility that sometimes startled him. Sarah would have loved seeing their daughter's mind develop, would have known exactly how to nurture that curiosity without overwhelming it. Daniel did his best, but parenting alone meant constant compromise. Lily spent after-school hours in this lobby, waiting for his shift to end at 11 p.m. She did homework on these leather benches, ate dinner from the vending machines, drew pictures to pass the time. The security guards knew her, kept candy at their desk for her. The late-shift programmers would occasionally stop to chat, impressed by her vocabulary and questions. But to everyone else, she was just the janitor's kid, sweet, quiet, invisible like her father. Victoria stared at the drawing, her mind racing through implications. This formula existed in exactly 2 places: her private notes in the locked development lab and the company's secured server that required 3 levels of authentication to access. Either someone had committed industrial espionage, or something impossible was happening. She looked up at Daniel, still mopping methodically, unaware of her scrutiny. Then back at the child, who'd returned to her drawing, adding more patterns with green marker. "What's your name?" Victoria asked. "Lily," the girl replied without looking up. "Lily Morrison. And your daddy taught you these patterns?" Lily nodded. "He likes math. We do it sometimes at home. He says Mom used to love numbers too." Victoria's throat felt tight. She stood slowly, mind working through possibilities. The security footage would show everything: who'd accessed what, when, how. If this was corporate espionage, she'd find it. If someone on her team had breached protocol, they'd be finished. But looking at this small child, markers scattered around her, absolutely no guile in her expression. Victoria's instincts said something else entirely was happening here, something she didn't understand yet. She pulled out her phone and photographed Lily's drawing from multiple angles, making sure every symbol was captured clearly. Then she pulled up her contacts, found Marcus Webb, her chief technical officer. "Marcus, my office, 10 minutes, emergency." She looked at the janitor one more time, still invisible to everyone except her. Daniel Morrison, the nameplate on his uniform said. 5 years working here, and Victoria had never noticed him once. Now she needed to know everything about him. Victoria's office occupied the entire top floor of the building, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. Minimalist design, expensive art she'd bought because a decorator said it showed sophistication, a desk made from reclaimed wood that cost more than most people's cars. She sat behind that desk now, Lily's drawing photographed and displayed on her laptop screen, comparing it line by line with the proprietary algorithm on her secured development server. They were identical, not similar, not coincidentally alike, identical. The 7-year-old girl had drawn, in colored marker, the exact formula that Victoria's team had been protecting with military-grade security protocols. Marcus Webb burst through the door, slightly out of breath from rushing up the stairs, 45 years old, brilliant but perpetually anxious, already sweating despite the air conditioning. "Victoria, what's the emergency? Did Tokyo pull funding?" She turned her laptop toward him, showing both images side by side. Marcus leaned forward, squinting. Then his face went pale. How did you get that image? That's our..." Our proprietary algorithm, yes, Victoria interrupted. The one that exists nowhere outside this building except on our secured server. The one that only you and I have full access to. Marcus's eyes widened. I didn't leak anything. Victoria, I swear on my mother's life. I know you didn't. She enlarged the image of Lily's drawing. Because this wasn't leaked by anyone on our team. This was drawn by a 7-year-old girl in our lobby. Marcus stared at her like she'd lost her mind. What? The janitor's daughter. She sits downstairs every evening waiting for her father's shift to end, and somehow she's drawing our most guarded trade secret in purple marker. The color drained from Marcus's face. That's impossible. And yet, Victoria gestured at the screen. Marcus pulled up a chair, studying both images intently. Could she have seen something? Maybe someone left documents unsecured, or... The development lab requires 3-factor authentication. Your badge, mine, and fingerprint verification. No documents leave that room, ever. Then how? Victoria had been asking herself the same question for the past hour. I don't know, but I need you to pull everything we have on Daniel Morrison. Employment history, background check, references, everything. The janitor? The janitor whose daughter somehow knows things she shouldn't be able to know. Marcus pulled out his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. Morrison, Daniel, hired 5 years ago for night shift maintenance, clean background check, previous employment listed as... Huh. What? Marcus turned his screen toward her. Previous employment is sparse, just says engineering sector with no specific company. That's weird. HR usually requires detailed work history. Victoria leaned forward. What else? References from 2 people. Both checked out at the time, but... Marcus clicked through several screens. Both phone numbers are now disconnected. Addresses are a P.O. box. So we don't actually know anything about him. Apparently not. Victoria stood, pacing to the windows. The city spread below her, thousands of people with hidden stories, invisible lives. How many of them were like Daniel Morrison, present but unseen, capable but overlooked? I want security footage from the lobby for the past 3 months, she said. Every moment that child was there. I want to know if anyone approached her, talked to her, gave her anything. You think someone's using her too? I don't know what to think, Victoria interrupted, but our algorithm is worth $40 million in 3 years of development. If someone's found a way to access it through a 7-year-old girl, I need to know how and why. Marcus nodded, already typing. I'll have everything sent to your secure drive within an hour. Good. And Marcus? Yes? Not a word about this to anyone. If we have a security breach, I don't want to tip off whoever's responsible. After Marcus left, Victoria returned to her desk, staring at Lily's drawing. The child had captured not just the basic structure, but subtle nuances that Victoria's own team had taken months to develop. The recursive loop, the optimization patterns, even small details that she'd only added to her private notes last week. Either this 7-year-old was a mathematical prodigy of unprecedented genius, or her father was teaching her things he shouldn't know. Victoria needed to find out which. And if Daniel Morrison was more than just a janitor, she needed to know why he'd hidden it. The security footage told a story that only deepened the mystery. For 3 months, every evening at 3:30 p.m., Lily Morrison had entered the building with her father. She'd settle onto the same leather bench in the lobby, pull out homework, colored markers, and paper. For the next 7.5 hours, she'd work quietly, occasionally talking to security guards, sometimes falling asleep with her head on her backpack. No suspicious contacts, no unauthorized visitors, no one approaching her with documents or whispering instructions. Just a little girl, alone in a corporate lobby, drawing pictures while her father cleaned floors. Victoria watched hours of footage, looking for anything unusual. What she found instead was something that made her chest tighten uncomfortably. A child growing up in the margins of a building where no one noticed her except the security guards who slipped her candy. On one video, Lily had dropped all her markers, the colorful cylinders rolling across the marble floor. A dozen executives had walked past without stopping. The security guard had finally helped her collect them, his grandfatherly kindness evident even through grainy footage. Another clip showed Lily working intently on homework, chewing her pencil, clearly stuck on something. She looked up hopefully each time someone passed, but no one stopped. Eventually, she'd given up and moved on to drawing instead. Victoria found herself wondering what kind of life this was for a 7-year-old, spending every evening in a corporate lobby, eating vending machine dinners, waiting until almost midnight to go home. But then she remembered the drawing, the impossible knowledge, and her sympathy hardened back into suspicion. She needed to visit Daniel Morrison's home. CEOs didn't make house calls to maintenance staff, but this transcended normal corporate hierarchy. She needed to understand how her most guarded secret had appeared in a child's artwork. The decision surprised even her, but desperation made people do unusual things. The drive to Riverside Heights took Victoria through neighborhoods she'd never seen, past strip malls with hand-painted signs, aging schools with chain-link fences, apartment complexes advertising month-to-month leases. This was an America that existed parallel to her Tesla and stock options, to her penthouse views and $500 dinners. People lived here, raised families here, built lives with completely different metrics of success. The duplex sat on a quiet street, porch light on, a few toys scattered on the small lawn. An aging sedan occupied the narrow driveway. Flowers bloomed in neat beds along the walkway, clearly well-tended, but simple varieties from a garden center rather than a landscaper's carefully curated selections. Victoria parked her Tesla, suddenly conscious of how out of place it looked. A $100,000 car on a street where most vehicles had visible rust and dented fenders. She sat for a moment, questioning her judgment. What if this was elaborate corporate espionage? What if Daniel Morrison was more than he seemed? What if she was walking into something dangerous? But the drawing was real. The knowledge was real. And she was desperate enough to take risks. She knocked on the door. Daniel answered almost immediately, still wearing his work uniform, exhaustion evident in the lines around his eyes. His surprise at seeing her shifted quickly to concern, then careful neutrality. "Miss Blackwell." His voice was quiet, measured. "This is unexpected." The statement carried multiple questions. Why are you here? What do you want? What has Lily done? Victoria found herself unexpectedly nervous. She'd faced down hostile board members, aggressive investors, and cutthroat competitors without flinching. But standing on this modest porch, facing a janitor whose daughter knew impossible things, she felt uncertain. "Mr. Morrison, we need to talk about your daughter's drawing." Something flickered in his eyes, recognition, resignation, perhaps relief that this moment had finally come. He stepped back, opening the door wider. "You'd better come in." The living room shattered every expectation Victoria had constructed. Yes, the furniture was second-hand, a couch with faded upholstery, a coffee table with water rings, a television that was several generations old. The carpet showed wear patterns from years of foot traffic. But the walls told a completely different story. Technical blueprints covered every available surface. Detailed engineering drawings of jet engines, propulsion systems, aerodynamic models. Mathematical equations flowed across multiple whiteboards mounted on the walls. Models of aircraft engines in various stages of assembly occupied shelves and tables. Books lined makeshift bookcases, advanced engineering texts, aerospace journals, technical manuals. Not decorative book spines chosen for their leather bindings, but actual working references, marked with tabs and annotations. This wasn't a janitor's home. This was an engineer's workshop, frozen in time. A museum of abandoned ambition. Victoria stood in the doorway, absorbing details her mind couldn't quite reconcile. The juxtaposition of poverty and expertise, of simple living and complex thinking. Daniel noticed her shock. "You wanted to know about the formula," he said quietly. Not a question, but recognition of why she'd come. Lily appeared in the hallway, clutching a stuffed rabbit, watching with those intelligent brown eyes that missed nothing. "Lily, honey, go finish your reading chapter. I'll check it in a few minutes." The child nodded without complaint, disappearing down the hall. Victoria heard a door close softly. Daniel gestured toward an armchair that had clearly been reupholstered more than once. Coffee? It's not fancy, but it's hot. Victoria shook her head, still processing the room. Her gaze kept returning to a particular blueprint on the wall, a jet engine schematic with handwritten notes in the margins, professional grade work. You're an engineer, she said. Again, not a question. Daniel's smile was bitter as he settled into a worn recliner. Was. Past tense. 5 years past tense. He gestured around the room with one hand. This is what's left of that life. Sarah used to call it my museum of what might have been. She wanted me to take it all down after we had Lily, said we needed the wall space for children's artwork, but I couldn't let go. Sarah was your wife. Is. Was. Daniel's voice cracked slightly. The grammar never feels right. She died 5 years ago. Drunk driver ran a red light. 3 seconds to destroy everything we'd built. Victoria felt something twist in her chest, an unfamiliar empathy for this man she'd come to interrogate. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't bring her back or explain to a 2-year-old why mommy's not coming home. He stopped, visibly collecting himself. You didn't come here for my sob story. No, Victoria admitted. I came because your daughter drew a formula that shouldn't exist outside my secure development lab. Daniel nodded slowly. I wondered how long it would take for someone to notice. You knew? You knew she was drawing proprietary information and you didn't. Miss Blackwell, I don't know what your formula is. I've never seen your development lab or accessed your servers. He stood, walking to one of the whiteboards covered in equations. But Lily has been around these concepts since she could walk. Recursive optimization, efficiency algorithms, the mathematics of making systems work smarter. He tapped a section of the board. This is work I did at Northrop Grumman, fuel efficiency optimization for jet engines. The patterns Lily draws aren't your exact formula, but they're related to the same underlying principles. Victoria moved closer, studying the equations. They were sophisticated, genuinely advanced work that showed deep understanding of optimization theory. You worked at Northrop Grumman? Senior engineer, youngest in my division, 2 patents pending. His voice carried no pride, just flat recitation of facts. I was going to be somebody. Then Sarah died, and none of it mattered anymore. So you became a janitor? I became a father, Daniel corrected. The janitor part was just the job that let me do it. Lily needed someone present, not successful. She needed bedtime stories and homework help and someone who never missed a school play. The aerospace industry doesn't accommodate that, so I walked away. Victoria tried to process this. You gave up everything. I gave up a career, Daniel said. I kept everything that actually mattered. He returned to his chair, exhaustion settling over him like a physical weight. Lily sees me working sometimes late at night when I think she's asleep. She absorbs concepts without trying. It's how her mind works. Pattern recognition, mathematical relationships. She's Sarah's daughter that way. Your wife was a mathematician. Teacher. Math and science at the elementary school. She loved showing kids that numbers could be beautiful, not scary. Daniel's voice softened with memory. Lily has both of us in her. Sarah's love of teaching, my analytical approach. She doesn't understand the implications of what she draws. To her, they're just pretty patterns. Victoria pulled out her phone, showing him the photograph of Lily's drawing alongside their proprietary algorithm. Mr. Morrison, Daniel, these aren't just similar. They're identical. Daniel studied the images, his expression unreadable. Then he sighed deeply. Lily must have seen something on my board. I've been working through optimization problems lately, trying to keep my skills from atrophying completely. She probably memorized the pattern without understanding it. Working through what problems? Ones I make up. Hypothetical scenarios, ways to keep my mind engaged. He met her eyes directly. I'm not stealing your secrets, Miss Blackwell. I don't even know what your company does beyond the vague AI and automation description on your website. Victoria wanted to believe him. The exhaustion in his face seemed genuine, the bitter resignation of someone who'd sacrificed too much. But $40 million was at stake. and trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. Your daughter drew a solution to a problem my entire team has been struggling with for months, she said carefully. If what you're saying is true, if you understand these principles, I need your help. Daniel's expression hardened immediately. I told you that life is over. I'm offering you a consulting position. Name your price. Work whatever hours suit. No. The word was flat, final. Lily needs stability, not a father who's never home because he's chasing intellectual problems. I made my choice 5 years ago, and I'm not revisiting it. Victoria felt frustration rising. Your daughter sits in a corporate lobby every night until 11 p.m. eating vending machine food and doing homework on a bench. You call that stability? The words came out harsher than she'd intended, but they hit their mark. Daniel flinched as if she'd slapped him. That's the best I can give her, he said quietly. I'm there. I'm present. She knows where I am every moment. We go home together. I help with homework, make breakfast, attend every school event. It's not perfect, but it's more than I had to give when I was traveling to conferences and working until midnight. Victoria saw the pain in his expression, the guilt of a parent who knew his best still wasn't enough. She thought about her own father, always present at dinner, but never really there, mind occupied with deals and markets, offering approval only when she achieved something worth noting. Maybe being physically present wasn't the same as being emotionally available. I'm sorry, she said, meaning it. You're doing the best you can. But it's not enough, is it? Daniel stood, moving toward the door, a clear dismissal. Nothing's ever enough, not for kids, not for bosses, not for the universe that takes away people you need. Victoria stood but didn't move toward the door. Instead, she pulled a business card from her bag, setting it on the coffee table beside a half-built engine model. If you change your mind about consulting, even just reviewing our approach, offering suggestions, the offer stands. We're stuck, and I think you might see what we're missing. Daniel didn't pick up the card. I won't change my mind. Then I'll leave you alone, Victoria said. But Daniel, your daughter is brilliant. Don't let this room become her entire world. She deserves more than leftover dreams. She left before he could respond, walking to her Tesla as the evening air cooled around her. Through the window, she could see Daniel still standing in his living room, surrounded by the remnants of his former life. A man who'd chosen love over ambition and was still paying the price. Victoria drove back to her penthouse, thinking about choices and sacrifices, about what people gave up and what they gained. Her career had cost her relationships, personal connections, any life outside corporate success. Daniel's choice had cost him professional fulfillment, intellectual challenge, the recognition of his gifts. Neither of them seemed particularly happy with the bargain they'd made, but at least Daniel had his daughter. Victoria arrived home to an empty apartment where expensive furniture echoed her footsteps and art. She didn't understand decorated walls nobody saw. Success, she thought, was just expensive silence. Well, the crisis came 3 days after Victoria's visit to Daniel's home. TechCrunch published a devastating article. AI and automation engines facing bankruptcy over failed algorithm. The stock price plummeted 30% in 2 days. Victoria worked 20-hour days containing the damage. Emergency board meetings, frantic investor calls. Marcus Webb presented desperate solutions that didn't work. Meanwhile, Daniel continued mopping floors, invisible to panicking executives rushing past. He heard their conversations, understood their problem, recognized their errors. But he'd made his choice. Lily mattered more. The moment everything changed happened at 2 a.m. on a Thursday. Victoria found Daniel in the cafeteria, eating a sandwich while Lily slept in the booth beside him, homework scattered across the table. The board's firing me tomorrow if I can't present a solution, Victoria said, sliding into the booth. Daniel continued eating. I know you made your choice, Victoria continued, but I'm drowning. You have the solution, Daniel said quietly. I drew it on your board 3 nights ago. Victoria's head snapped up. What? I saw your problem through the lab door. The solution was obvious, so I wrote it down. He finally met her eyes. You should lock that door. Victoria pulled up security footage on her phone. 3 nights ago, Daniel had paused at the open door, studied the whiteboard, then entered and solved their problem in minutes before walking away. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you'd offer me a job. Lily would lose her only parent. He looked at his sleeping daughter. I wrote it down. What you do with it is your business. Victoria felt tears sting her eyes. I need someone who understands it, can implement it. Find someone else. There is no one else. Lily stirred but didn't wake. Victoria lowered her voice. What if it didn't have to be either or? What if we made it work for both of you? The next 72 hours blurred together. Daniel worked from a conference room terminal, Lily doing homework beside him. Victoria brought dinner, helped with Lily's science project while Daniel coded. The engineering team gathered around, watching him solve months-old problems in hours. Daddy's really smart, Lily told Victoria during a break. He just pretends he's not. Victoria felt something crack in her chest. The breakthrough came at 4 a.m. on the 3rd day. Got it, Daniel said quietly. The algorithm ran perfectly, efficiency exceeding projections by 40%. The room erupted. Victoria hugged Daniel spontaneously, the moment hanging between them like an unanswered question. The board meeting that morning saved the company. Stock prices rebounded. Investors renewed funding. Victoria had won, but success felt hollow without someone to share it. Over the following weeks, Daniel consulted occasionally after hours, always with Lily present. These sessions became something more. Victoria teaching Lily about business while Daniel solved problems, the 3 of them forming an unlikely family. Victoria found herself genuinely enjoying homework battles and bedtime stories. Lily started calling her Aunt Vicky. Daniel noticed Victoria laughing more, worrying less about appearances. The attraction was mutual and problematic, but in their conference room bubble, titles mattered less than connection. The shift happened on Lily's 8th birthday. Victoria cleared her schedule, helped with the party, played games with kids who didn't care about her net worth. That evening, Lily told Victoria, I wish you could be here all the time. Daniel overheard, saw his daughter's hand in Victoria's, recognized the family they'd become. The first kiss happened 2 weeks later. After Lily ran ahead to chase fireflies, Daniel and Victoria stood by her car. Thank you, he said. Victoria looked up at him, seeing the man who'd chosen love over glory. The kiss was soft, questioning. She answered by pulling him closer. Finally, Lily interrupted. I thought you'd never figure it out. They laughed, a makeshift family forming in a corporate parking lot. The relationship faced challenges. Victoria's father threatened to withdraw funding. The board expressed concerns, but they found harmony. Victoria discovering peace in Daniel's simple life. Daniel rediscovering intellectual stimulation through Victoria's work. When scandal broke 6 months later, CEO's secret romance with Janitor, Victoria faced the board directly. My personal life doesn't affect my ability to run this company. Our profits are up 40%. The board backed down. Daniel proposed in the lobby where Lily had drawn the formula. A simple ring. I can't offer you much, just a man who fixes things, a daughter who loves you, and a promise we'll always choose each other. Victoria's yes came through tears. They married in Daniel's backyard with string lights and Sarah's flowers. Simple ceremony, genuine joy. Victoria's father saw real happiness in his daughter's face for the first time. Victoria remained CEO but restructured priorities. Daniel joined as Chief Innovation Officer, keeping his old uniform as a reminder. Lily grew up brilliant and grounded, attended MIT, chose environmental technology. At her graduation, she thanked her parents for showing her that success meant nothing without love. Victoria and Daniel had 2 more children. They lived in a comfortable house with Daniel's workshop in the garage and Victoria's office overlooking Sarah's garden. Years later, business students studied Victoria's leadership, focusing on the algorithm crisis. They missed the real story, how a janitor's daughter revealed not just a mathematical solution, but a human one. The formula wasn't just about optimization, it was about love's recursion, how it circles back when least expected. The company thrived, the family flourished. And somewhere, Sarah smiled, knowing her flowers weren't the only things still blooming.